All right, so is this the film that is going to save Marvel slash Disney from disaster? Let's talk about it. My name is Brandon Keith Avery, and this is just my opinion. Hey, what's going on, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Just My Opinion from my Deadpool and Wolverine movie review. And if this is your first time finding me, and you happen to like the video, please give me a thumbs up and consider subscribing. Guys, we are finally here with Deadpool and Wolverine. If you did not know already, this was my most anticipated film of 2024. I was going into this movie thinking that this was going to be the top 3, maybe top 5 of the entire MCU. At least that's what I hope. Now, this is being directed by Mr. Sean Levy. This is what the man looks like right here. And I like the guy. If we scroll down and just look at his filmography just a little bit, he did do The Atom Project, which came out on Netflix a couple of years ago, which was great. Stranger Things, if you haven't seen that on Netflix, you need to get on it right now. And also Free Guy. All of these films and TV shows are fantastic. He's worked with Ryan Reynolds, one of the titular characters before. So I thought that this was the perfect marriage between actor and director for this Deadpool and Wolverine. And also, guys, Real Steel, I own this on Blu-ray. This movie is great. It's fantastic. Do not sleep on Real Steel. It's great. So yeah, I really am feeling Sean Levy as the director. Now, like I said, my expectations for this was through the roof. I was going in saying that this is going to make $1 billion worldwide at the box office easily. Even does have the potential of making $2 billion worldwide at the box office if it meets or exceeds our expectations. If it falls below expectations, then most likely not. But if it meets or exceeds, then hey, we're in there. Most MCU films have met expectations. There are not many at all that have exceeded expectations. Like, your expectations are through the roof. It's super high, and then not only meets that, it exceeds it. So that's a tall order right there. I knew that there was going to be a lot of cameos. I knew that there was going to be a lot of jokes. I knew that there was going to be a lot of surprises, even though one surprise was spoiled for me, which I'm pretty pissed about. Again, my expectations were super, super high. I wanted this to be the best Marvel film ever. We all know that the Marvel films as of late after 2019's Endgame hasn't been the best, hasn't been the greatest, but Marvel was like, hey, this is gonna save the MCU. We are back, baby, we are back. So before I get into all the nitty gritty, before I talk about all my likes and dislikes, let me tell you exactly what this film, Deadpool and Wolverine, is all about. Wolverine is recovering from his injuries when he crosses paths with the loudmouth Deadpool. They team up to defeat a common enemy. All right, guys, the first thing that I liked about this Deadpool and Wolverine film is the consistency with it coming from the past 2 films. I won't say that you have to see those. It's a requirement to see Deadpool 1 and 2, but it will help you understand things better. But as far as the tone is concerned, it is very consistent with the time jumping of how those first 2 films opened up to introduce the world to you. That's the exact same way we get in Deadpool and Wolverine or Deadpool 3. Next thing I loved about this film is the chemistry between Hugh Jackman and Ryan Reynolds, Deadpool and Wolverine, the 2 titular characters. You possibly already knew that from the marketing material, from the trailers, or in any featurette or behind the scenes take that these 2 were making to help promote the film. They get along great on screen, in front of the camera, and you can tell behind the camera. It's probably obvious to say or cliche at this point in time, but it just feels like these 2 were born to act, to perform, to entertain together. Their energy together on screen, whether they are together or by themselves, their chemistry on screen, their jokes, all of their banter back and forth is remarkable. I loved it. It's a highlight of the film. It's obvious to you again when you're watching all the trailers for this movie, and just stands out even more when you're actually in the theater, in the auditorium, witnessing all of this greatness. I love that, some of the best parts. And also, not only that is, I love great contrast. These are superhero comic book movies, so a lot of the times you're gonna have your bright colors that can be annoying to some and may not be their cup of tea, but for me, it worked. When you have Wolverine's costume, the bright yellow and blue costume, in addition to Deadpool's red and black, it just looks great. Simply put, I loved it. We have been waiting for this for the longest time, and they did deliver it to us tenfold. And I absolutely loved it. It did not look corny. It did not look goofy. It did not look forced or any type of way. It looked natural. It looked organic. it looked like it was supposed to be there. And that's what I want to feel when I'm watching these comic book superhero movies, which is some of my favorite pieces of entertainment out there. I'm not one personally to dress up or cosplay as my favorite superhero or comic book characters, but when I was watching this, it did cross my mind like, damn, if I had the opportunity to buy this Wolverine costume, this Deadpool costume, I possibly would and would wear it with no shame at all. And so that's just how it was able to grab me from someone who really doesn't care about that type of stuff. And just going back to their chemistry, and this has already been reported before, but I don't know to what degree, but it honestly feels like Sean Levy and or the writers did not have a script, did not have lines of dialogue for these characters to memorize. And they were just freestyling the whole thing, just improving off of each other. And I loved it. It was great. It felt natural and organic, like I said before. That just really goes to show how talented these gentlemen are and how much they should be working together now and or in the future. If Marvel Disney does not want Hugh Jackman and Deadpool, Wolverine to be working together in the future, that would be a darn shame and a missed opportunity. Please hire everyone back so we can get another part 2 of this in some way, shape, or form. But also, besides these characters looking great on screen and sounding great with all of their banter and silly jokes, because there were a lot of them, you will be laughing your butt off from beginning to end of this movie. They also had a valid reason for being there. Not everybody in this film, which I'll get to a little bit later, but Deadpool and Wolverine had a good reason for wanting to push the story forward. They had great arcs to their character, great development, and I loved all that. And it was very heartfelt and emotional. I did not expect for this film to pull on my heartstrings as much as it did, with all of the violence, all of the gore and the carnage, and all of the silly jokes, some appropriate, some not so appropriate. And I take that back. I don't want to say that some of the jokes were inappropriate, because you knew what you was getting when you bought your ticket for this, when you signed up for it. We all knew that this was rated R going in, and Deadpool does push the envelope. But as far as their characters are concerned, I was just saying to myself, wow, I did not know that Deadpool and Wolverine could get this deep. Well, actually, I knew that Wolverine could, and we got that in one of his last films, Logan, which is still, in one of my opinion, one of the best superhero comic book movies ever released to date. I did not know that we can get all of that from Deadpool. I actually felt sorry for his character and cared about him and wanted him to thrive and make it to the next chapter of his life unscathed. With him being a character that is just never serious, always breaking the fourth wall, joke after joke after joke after joke, it was really refreshing to get the polar opposite, a complete 180-degree part of his character delivered to me in this film, in this movie, and I love that. So if you're seeking some content with a little bit of depth that you didn't think that you would get in a Deadpool movie, you're gonna get it here. And I was also just able to relate to the characters as well, of them both just wanting to belong, to just feel important, that their life and all of their work is worthwhile and just wasn't a waste of time. We all have been there before. We all have wanted to feel liked and appreciated and loved in some way. And these two showcase that in this film. No matter what they've been through in the past, there is still a void that they're trying to fill up. And I think that everybody has been there at a certain point in their life. And so again, when you have these crazy characters with all these bright colors and jokes and banter, when they're able to deliver this amount of emotion and heart, which I spoke of, it's really refreshing. Like I said, it's really nice. I really did enjoy that too. I also love the fact that this movie is self-aware. It makes fun of itself. It does. It makes fun of all superhero movies, all comic book movies. It makes fun of all of the mishaps and drama that has gone on behind the scenes with all of Marvel Studios production. We all know that things have not been the best. Marvel/Disney has not reached their full potential as far as the quality of the film since 2019's with Avengers Endgame. And they addressed it a number of times in this film, and I love that too. That did not get old at all to me. Some people may think so, but I thought it was perfect. I thought it's exactly what the doctor ordered. Deadpool is already a character that breaks the fourth wall often, and so it just made more sense for his character to be the one to address all of the mishaps and drama that has been going on behind the scenes with Marvel. It was perfect, fit like a lovely glove, all of that good stuff. They knocked it out the park with that aspect of this film. And guys, we know that we come to these superhero comic book films for the action, for the adventure. We want to see somebody get their ass kicked, get stabbed, get their head chopped off, get blasted across the screen, or get body slammed into oblivion. And we get all of that. The action in this movie is great. It is a love letter to any action, adventure, superhero comic book lover across the board. If you're going into this wanting to see all of these characters use all of their abilities, all of their powers to their full potential, you're going to get that. I was salivating and screaming all at the mouth like, ooh, and ah, all over the place when I was watching this. Seriously, I am not exaggerating. With Deadpool and Wolverine, with his katana blades and Wolverine's claws clashing between each other, it was truly an art form. I loved it. It takes me back to my childhood. Just even the sound effects alone, even if you watch this movie with your eyes closed, just hearing all the cling, cling, clang, and all of that, it is going to blow your socks off. Real talk. I love it. I cannot wait to see this movie again, just for the action, just to see Wolverine bend down and extend his claws in such a manner. It just screams epicness all over the place. I mean, they're fighting here, they're fighting there, they're fighting everywhere. It's one-on-one, it's groups on two, it's one on groups, it's a giant group versus another giant group. You're going to get all different types of levels of fighting and engagement when it comes to battle in this film. And like I said, it is a love letter to those that love this type of material. Again, if it wasn't obvious to you already, please stay away from any spoilers, any trailers, any marketing material. There are so many surprises in this film that I did not expect to see, that I did not see coming. One of them was ruined for me, but I was still surprised by other pop-ups in this film. I loved it. Some people have guessed it in the past, like, hey, I think this person is going to show up and this person is going to show up, and they're right. And some people did not guess anything at all, and that's just another beautiful thing to this with all the surprises and cameos. So stay away, but if you wanted a cameo surprise fest, you're going to get that here as well. But guys, those are the things that I really did like about the film. Now let me transition to some things that really just did not work for me. First being the entire first act of this movie. My goodness gracious, I was really waiting a while for the movie to get started. And the very first act of this film seemed a bit redundant to me. I was turned off, honestly, by a lot of the gratuitous violence at the very beginning of this movie. Not just because it was violent, I can handle that, but I did not understand what was the reason for it. Like, why is Deadpool killing all of these people for no reason, apparently? It took them a while to explain it, but at the very beginning, I had already got clocked out after a while because I was like, what's the point of all this? I don't mind you being violent and cutting people's heads off, making their heads explode, etc., but I don't want you doing it to innocent people. I want it to be a valid reason of why you're doing it. Why does this person deserve to get their chest blown out of their body? Why does this person deserve to get their foot chopped off or sword stabbed in their face? If they're bad guys, if they're antagonists, hey, great, bring the violence on. But for a while, I was like, wait a minute, this is making me uncomfortable a little bit. And besides that, we already know who Deadpool's close family and friends are when it comes to Blind Owl and everybody else that we know from previous films, part 1 and part 2. And slight spoiler here, but a lot of them died in part 2. Now, they did give a great reason of why a lot of them are back in part 3. It made sense. They did explain that well, but I just didn't care about them. I already knew who they were. There's nothing new or fresh about the characters in this film, and I'd just rather have seen something else than them take up the first 20 or 30 minutes of this movie. They should have just been left in the previous film if this is what we're going to get in this movie. And again, I was just waiting for the movie to start. I wasn't bored, but I wasn't interested either. I was more interested with the personal choices Deadpool Wade Wilson made as far as his character is concerned and where he's at in his personal life, as far as not wanting to be a superhero or join certain teams, etc. But the excessive violence in the beginning and we interacting with all of his family and friends, it just was not really interesting to me. And it just had a slow start and things really didn't pop off until Wolverine showed up. The next thing that I really didn't care for in this film is while I did like a lot of the jokes, there were too many. It honestly felt like the writers and director Sean Levy just said, okay, hey guys, let's stop pushing the story forward right now and take a break just to tell some jokes. I'm like, okay, what are we doing here? This is just too many jokes. Yes, they're funny. Yes, I'm chuckling a little bit, but it did get excessive a little bit. Now, it's not to the point to where it completely ruined the film or the tone, like Thor 4. I can't even remember the subtitle for that film. That was just too jokey and just ruined everything. And that's not the case because Deadpool is made for jokes. But at the same time, I still felt it was just a little bit excessive. I think that it paused the film and shifted the tone just a little bit to where, hey, let's just have a joke time instead of it being, organic and flowing seamlessly like it should have been or the way it did in the past or in previous films. Just a little bit too much jokes. They should have dialed that back a little bit. Next thing that I really don't like about this film, guys, is when it does come to the action. There is a lot of fighting in this film, but there was 2 scenes in particular where I felt an action scene went on too long, and one was just completely pointless to me. I did not like it at all. The setup was great. It was fantastic. I was like, hey, it's about to go down. But while I was watching it, while I was trying to be engaged, I said, this is pointless. There are no stakes at all. Deadpool and Wolverine are not gonna die. And the film right now is making that very clear and obvious. Yes, I do know that they have rapid healing abilities. And if they were to die, it would be extremely difficult. But still, you need to set up your scenes to where at least I feel like they're in danger. But no matter if it was Deadpool and Wolverine versus 2 people or 500, doing this one scene, I was just like, okay, I'm waiting for this to be over. There's no stakes. It does not matter what the antagonists throw against Deadpool and Wolverine. They're going to survive. They're going to make it out. And it's not funny. It's not entertaining. I'm just waiting for it to be over because there are just absolutely no stakes at all. This is just a 10-minute running joke, and it's kind of annoying. And the last thing that I really didn't care about this film, guys, is the plot and the story of the lack thereof. Earlier, I talked about Deadpool and Wolverine, Wade Wilson and Logan having a valid reason to be there with their story arcs, them progressing and becoming better people. That made sense, but I'm still lost at the point of the antagonists. What were their goals? What were they trying to accomplish? Why was this bad guy trying to team up with this other bad guy? It seems like it didn't make any sense at all. And I'm saying to myself, okay, if this is what you're trying to accomplish, all you have to do is be patient, sit back and wait. But because you want things to happen right now, you're just drawing a lot of unnecessary attention to yourself that's gonna spoil your plans. I mean, I don't get it. If I know that I want a certain outcome in a situation, and I know for a fact that it's gonna happen, let's just say in 7 days, I can be patient enough to wait 7 days. I don't have to do anything to say, okay, even though it's gonna happen in 7 days, I want it to happen in 24 hours. So let me do X, Y, and Z to speed it up and draw this attention to myself. That's kind of what the villains were doing in this movie, and it just didn't make any sense to me. And I'm still flabbergasted at like what the whole point is. I don't get it. The ending of the movie was great, and I liked the way they wrapped it up and they tried to explain it, but a lot of it felt completely unnecessary. And that's just very, very disappointing. But overall, guys, Deadpool and Wolverine is very, very fun. You're going to enjoy yourself, and it's going to make a ton of money. Again, my expectations were through the roof. I wanted this to be top 5, top 3 in the whole MCU, and that is hella difficult to do. It's very hard to accomplish. So were all of my expectations met? No, they weren't. But this is not a bad film. It's still better than a lot of the films that have come out in the MCU post-Endgame in 2019. And this is definitely better than Deadpool 2, in my opinion. Is it better than Deadpool 1? It's more exciting and there's more things that's going on. But as far as crossing every T and dotting every I think the first Deadpool accomplished that much more than this film. This film was juggling a lot more, but at the same time, nobody asked you to do all of that. You know what I'm saying? I mean, if you want to juggle 3 balls opposed to 11 balls, yeah, it is more talent. You're more talented if you're able to juggle 11. But if you drop it at least once or twice, and then the person over here juggled 3 with perfect execution, I mean, who are you going to give the trophy to? And that's just kind of how I'm looking at this. Again, it is a great film. It's not perfect. It still has its mistakes and needs to be ironed out. And they should have just, ironed out the story, and that's important, the story and the plot for the antagonist. That just didn't really make entirely too much sense. And it was just too many jokes. And, sometimes with the action, the continuity, like I was just sitting back like, okay, this is nice. I love the team ups. I love the cameos and all the special surprises and all that. And it was great. And again, you got to see all the characters use all their powers and abilities. But at the same time, I was also thinking, and I didn't mention this, like sometimes I was like, okay, why are these bad guys over here just letting the good guys wreck shop? Why aren't they shooting them from a distance and taking them out? You know, you're kind of letting them win. And that's just not cool. And so I will give my rating for this at the very end. But for now, guys, that is just my opinion. And I want to thank you so much for tuning in. If you did like this video, please go ahead and give me the thumbs up and subscribe to the channel, helping me reach my next milestone of 75,000 subscribers. And if I had to rate Deadpool out of Wolverine out of a 1 out of 10, I don't know. I will have to see it. I'm going to see it again. I'm going to see it again and try to come back and give you guys a spoiler review. But for right now, I'm sitting between a 7.5 and an 8 out of 10, a 7.5 and an 8 out of 10. I can't make a decision right now as which one I want to go with, so we're just going to leave it right there. But I will be back for a spoiler review, and we'll have a more concrete rating for you. But guys, again, I just want to thank you so much for tuning in. And before you go, don't forget that my name is Brandon Keith Avery, and that's just my opinion. Peace.